I mean, as long if you have all the music already.
Right.
Like
You got to
like-
deal with the
it's
library.
like back in the Napster days, or going back in time here?
We don't necessarily have to steal it.
No, it's not stolen. You
Yeah.
could-
Well,
you
you're,
just-
you're
you could-
sharing it technically.
to
yeah.
yourself.
No, just yourself.
A few videos back, we did a video comparing the different audio streaming services, the music streaming services online, and it was interesting. It was a learning experience actually, because we usually use one or two in house, and we don't try all of them. You know, who
Yeah.
does?
Well,
You
some
know?
people do.
Yeah. Well, I guess when you're first looking, but we kind of settled on Tidal a long time ago because it was just easiest to use at trade shows and all this. But
Well, I
bottom
got
line,
familiar with it.
Yeah. Right. We just got used to it. It worked. It worked.
I
Sounds
use
good.
them all, but I've never done that cold, direct comparison. And that was legitimate. We didn't, there's like no fakery or whatever. We didn't know what was playing. We all came into it without talking to each other, and we just said what we thought.
Well, we each picked our three tracks. We said we're going to just narrow it down to three tracks
Yeah.
that each of us were very familiar with. Therefore, we know what it should sound like, like probably like from, the best we've ever heard it type thing. We know what it sounds like. And that was our basis, right? So anyway, yeah, it was kind of fun. It was kind of fun to do, but it was also a learning curve, and we should talk about it, because some of the people in the comments said some things that make sense, in terms of, well, hey, why'd you do this? And there's a lot to cover, but we'll try to narrow it down to short, brief sections.
Right. So, of course, what we did wasn't exhaustive. In particular, my tracks, I wasn't that familiar with those tracks. I just wanted to come in as inexperienced as possible with a little bias and just say what I thought. And curiously, especially on the Linkin Park track, I preferred the MQA, but if you watch the video, there was also, you can see the little DAC, it'll say MQA when it was playing MQA. We didn't know that. We couldn't see it, right? But curiously, on the Linkin Park track, the MQA sounded the most compressed, but also was the one I preferred because it was a little smoother.
Well, yeah, MQA kind of, let's say, dumbed down the track a little bit.
Right.
It made it sound not as edgy as it would have been through, say, a high-res version, because it was that track. But see, that's the thing, like, that was one of the comments people said, well, I don't like Tidal because of the MQA. Well, come to find out,
It was like 1 week prior
yeah,
to when we did that video.
yeah, the CEO of Tidal went on social media and said, by the way, we're now eliminating MQA, phasing it out. And what are they replacing with?
FLAC.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
FLAC files, yeah. So, and it's already in progress.
Yeah.
So here we go, right? So that happened the week we happened to be doing this test.
Well, I think it was
So-
one of the things that made us do the test, because we're like, oh, they
was,
changed it, so we'll just try them all again, because we haven't in years.
It's
so.
your last taste of MQA.
Yeah,
And
right.
2 of the tracks that I listened to on Tidal were FLAC. You could see they didn't
Well,
light
that's
up as
the thing.
MQA
At
on
the
the
time,
back.
they were in the process of phasing out the Tidal.
Yeah.
In Tidal, they were phasing out the
Right.
MQA. So we don't know.
Well, yeah, it could have
we
been
don't
anything.
know what it was, right? And I mean, that's the thing, though. When you think about it, I mean, it was the same with some of the other music services we did too, right? We set the settings like a week before or whatever. We wanted to make sure we had them all set for the highest res and blah blah blah. And we sat down and did it, thinking we're good. And here,
And
shit
things change.
changes, like the in between, and it wasn't a settings thing as much, but yeah, it's kind of funny, so what I'm honing in on is a couple people commented saying, well, I think Cold Buzz is the best.
Yeah.
And given their format that they're all FLAC, I think it's a reasonable,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah, FLAC's
Conclusion.
great. It tends to be my preferred format.
Yeah.
I mean, it gives you a good blend of this and that, a reasonable file size. It obviously sounds fine.
Yeah.
It's decently supported these days. It's a good format, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to sound the best objectively in every case. Because
Yeah.
what I learned first and foremost from this was the recording initially, the actual mastering of the album matters way more than the format you're going to stream it in. Because MP3 is not that bad sometimes. Sometimes it's horrible, right? Especially in certain situations. There's edge cases where MP3 is horrific, just like there is the same for MQA. And you could probably find a track or an area where maybe it really does something that's just offensive.
Well, I think me and him have compared a lot more master files to not master files.
Yeah, yeah, probably.
Over the years.
But the other thing that we didn't conclude in the video was everybody picked what they use most of the time. Like at home, he usually uses Tidal.
Right.
You usually use Tidal.
Right.
But I only use Apple Music all the time in the car, at home. So
I think we concluded that at the end of the
You
video,
pick
but
what
yeah,
you're
we
used
wound
to.
up choosing, we took the test independently, so we didn't
Right.
know, we didn't
Right,
even know what
yeah.
each other's doing. We just
Right.
listened to our tracks, videoed it, next guy sat down. But bottom line is, yeah, it was kind of wild that we actually picked what we used normally, which makes sense.
Right.
You know, but the
So
other,
it might not be the best. It's just what
Right.
you're accustomed to.
well, yeah, like I've never really tried Cobuzz.
Yeah, me neither.
It's surprising because a lot of guys use it at the trade shows and stuff,
Yeah.
people we work with, you know, other companies, but I've just never used it. A lot of guys use Tidal too. A lot of you guys use Apple. A lot of companies use Apple, so it just depends.
Curiously, we did a test before, and at least on those tracks, the Apple Music was definitely better. But when we did this blind test, at least the tracks we all seemed to pick, Apple Music wasn't always ranking high. I mean, you seem to prefer it, but it's strange how it varies so much from track to track, album to album, artist to artist. I don't know why. Sometimes they have different raw input sources. Like sometimes they have better masters on one company than compared to the other. Sometimes they don't. So it seems like it's really hard to just make a sweeping recommendation. Just
Well,
use this.
We just ran into this the other day.
That's
This
right.
was literally, what,
Yesterday.
last week? Yesterday?
Yesterday.
It was freaking that soon ago? Yeah, yesterday, right? So explain what happened.
We were working on Diana MR, you know, and listening to a few tracks, and then you listened to a few tracks, and you're like, "This sounds weird," you know, like what? And he's like, "I've heard this song a million times, and it's not what I'm used to." He thought the headphone was doing something.
Yeah, I
right?
thought something screwed
Like,
up.
did we screw up on something?
Yeah.
And it turns out
It's not like we had a spatial effect on
yeah,
it.
and there is what it turned out. The iPad that we were using through Apple Music had Dolby Atmos always on, and I figured that if it's always on, it wouldn't, you know, if it was unsupported hardware, it wouldn't do any Atmos. But
Yeah.
that's actually not true. It still puts it through 2-channel Atmos effects.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we've used it like that before, same track, and it wasn't
Yeah.
doing it before.
Yeah.
And so we're coming basically right out of an iPad, like this iPad,
Yeah.
through a DAC, just an external DAC that's doesn't have MQA or any of that stuff in it, just a DAC, and it still had an effect. You know, Sarah McLachlan all of a sudden was like floating in space, and it really didn't sound right because she's supposed to be centered, and it's a 2-channel recording. She's supposed to be in the middle of your head.
Yeah, we turned
You
it
know?
off and bam, right back to normal.
Yeah, so it's crazy because I used that same track when we did the test here, and it wasn't doing it when we did the first video. So here's another confusing
Yeah,
fact.
how does that make
factor.
any sense?
Yeah, you've got whatever, iOS updates. We don't know what's going on, right? That's changing the landscape of the music being played even a week or two later.
Yeah, because
You
I
know?
figured if the DAC can't decode it, it would just be a standard track. But
Yeah, that's what
that
I
was
would've
not the
thought, too.
case.
And beyond these issues, people brought up in the comments things like, oh, why just use CD or vinyl or this and that? And I could see why you would, because listen to what we're talking about, things change a lot. They change depending on your hardware configuration, depending on the software version you're running potentially. Maybe they do an update. Maybe they totally change the content that service hosts.
Or they could just get rid of the content. It's just like
Right.
on all the streaming services, people are like, I want to buy the DVD still or whatever, Blu-ray,
Yeah.
because I'll always have it. It's like Netflix just gets rid of a whole series, then you're like, oh.
So that's a complicated thing, because now
Or
basically
they completely change the sound of all the
Well,
music
good,
and
yeah.
on an album that
Right,
you
yeah.
love.
it depends what you
know?
prioritize. If you just want to listen to this, just to go buy it on a CD or vinyl or whatever you prefer, because that's going to be a sure bet. You know, if I play it today, it's going to sound the same next week, most likely. Whereas with a streaming service, you always have that uncertainty. To some people it matters, some people doesn't. Personally, I prefer the availability of new stuff right away,
It is nice.
right? I prefer it's just like I plug it in, it goes, I don't think about it. But
Well-
you do sometimes pay a price for that in the sense
Yeah,
of
right.
not only the cost of the streaming service, but also the potential uncertainty and degradation.
It's nice, like, because then they recommend stuff. Oh, a new album just came out that you
Yeah.
normally would never. Oh, this guy has a new album? Cool. And you can listen to it the day it comes out.
Yeah, maybe you don't track some people that
Right.
closely, right? And you wouldn't even really notice they have a new album. So it's cool for that
You
stuff.
can
It's
just
really
pop
great.
in, listen to it, like, for 10 seconds. Oh, yeah, well, I'll listen to it later.
When I did notice on apparently most of the premium versions of these services, you can download the tracks and store them locally.
Yeah.
I haven't tried that yet, but that'd be a cool way to do it. You hear the version you like, store it.
Archive it.
I don't know where it's stored or how long it's saved. or if
Yeah,
you
I think
change
it
your
only
phone
saves it
or-
for a while or whatever, 30
Yeah.
or
I'm
90
sure they're
days
all
or something.
different, too.
Yeah,
so.
I don't know how it works.
Maybe
I
it like
didn't try
renews the license or something eventually if you're still subscribed to that
Or
service.
if it's stored, does it actually update it? So let's say that, you
Right.
know what I'm saying? If,
Who
they,
knows?
if they change the track,
Yeah.
now it's playing the new version or the not MQA version.
Yeah,
or
like if
the-
they replaced an MQA with a
Yeah.
flag,
Yeah.
does it get updated?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Apple used to, they probably still do it, but I know they used to, like, when you bought Apple Music, like it would look at the tracks you own, and then it would just stream the version of it, so
Right.
it wouldn't be playing the local version.
It'll match your library
Right.
and stream their version
Yeah,
of
and
your
back
track.
then they weren't lossless, so
Right.
it's kind
I
of a
used to use
downgrade.
Subsonic, an iSub app on my phone to stream music from my local library to my device.
Yeah.
And I kind of stopped doing that because of the complexities of dealing with the library management.
Yeah.
And streaming services came out that worked really well. But that, oddly enough, it's like sort of attractive these days because it's just like the certainty, the reliability.
Yeah.
You know it's going to work. And now especially that you have good download speeds typically on mobile and good upload speeds at home. It's almost an option. You could do that yourself. You could self-host. It's not that hard even.
Yeah, I mean, as long if you have all the music already.
Right.
Like
You
back-
got to
like-
deal with the
it's
library.
like back in the Napster days. We're going back in time here. or
We don't
something?
necessarily have to steal it.
No, it's not stolen. You
Yeah.
can,
Well,
you
you're,
just-
you're
you can-
sharing it technically.
to
yeah.
yourself.
just yourself.
Just yourself.
I
You're
see.
self-hosting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're connecting to your
Well, I
home
think
server.
Rune, actually, now that I think about it, Rune let you do that too.
Right.
They added that service like a year or so ago, where your Rune nucleus is in your home typically,
Right.
and it can see your local files.
Yeah, it's an automated version
Yeah.
of that.
And
yeah.
now you can supposedly stream from that anywhere on your phone anywhere you are from your local files at home. I haven't even tried that.
Yeah,
yet.
probably should try that.
Yeah.
That could be the ultimate streaming
Yeah,
service.
now we're
Yeah.
talking. You just stream your own damn music, which again goes to show you, buying music is a pretty good thing.
It
Deal.
can be, yeah.
You think about it, like you said, if you like the stuff, purchase it.
Yeah, just go for it.
You've got the original track, you've got the album. I love vinyl. I love getting old vinyl, used, mint old vinyl. I love getting stuff from the 70s. That's when it was made. That album was made then. That's the original. And it's cool to listen to. And, vinyl's got its own issues,
Yeah.
but still,
Yeah.
you do a nice setup in vinyl at home.
That's the thing.
That can
yeah.
play these
Vinyl's a
things,
different problem.
But,
Like 50 versions of the same
but that's
album.
the original,
But so that's the thing. There's a lot of originals, though.
Yeah.
Like they made like
That's
4
true.
different kinds in the same year, right?
We can
So
look it up.
You got to look it up.
Since it's history,
Yeah.
it's easy to figure out. Well, it's not
Well,
too hard to figure out. There's apps for that.
That's right.
It's doable.
Yeah, but anyway, so I guess bottom line is that everyone, try to be cool with each other when you argue
Well,
with each
there's
other
no
about,
right or
about the
wrong,
online
really.
streaming service.
That's
It is
right.
very complicated.
Because there's a lot
like
of
always.
variables, yeah, and it changes day by day. So
Right.
so
Yeah.
some,
Tidal Slack now.
some guy will be arguing about something that's going on. You tried a month ago, and you go, no, it doesn't.
And it
do
changes,
that.
yeah. And
Yeah.
Spotify allegedly was supposed to come out with a hi-fi version that was CD quality.
Someone mentioned that in the comments of that video.
And from what I could tell,
looked
it
up,
never
I go,
happened.
Where is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know it
just
existed.
disappeared.
Yeah. There's a website
Well, it never
for
existed in the first place.
it. Yeah, there was a web page for it, but yeah, apparently you can't get it.
I can't find it,
Yeah. Oh, no, so now it's gone.
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I found it a few weeks ago. Now it's
I mean,
gone.
maybe there's a website. Yeah, sure. But
And herein lies the problem.
who knows?
So anyway, we wanted to just try to clear that up and say that we're not the only ones confused about that. It is the way it is what it is when it comes to that end
It's
of
an
it.
ever-changing landscape.
But I think that's a good takeaway because you see these people always fighting about this or that or whatever, the values of this, and they're probably both right in that
Right,
case, right?
right.
Because,
Yeah.
for what you listen to, for what you care about, maybe you're right.
At that
Maybe
moment
this guy's
in
right
time,
too.
At that moment in time, you were right.
And if you wait 2 years,
And
well,
then
things could be
shit
totally
happens
different.
after that. So there you have it. Thank you everybody for watching. Thumbs us up and subscribe to us. We got good stuff coming. Thanks.